now. Thomas Hearns is an open book for Ray Leonard. Backs up against the ropes.
This is one of the most unusual calls by a referee in the history of the sport.
The first loss. A tremendous victory. Leonard fighting off the ropes.
It happened. It happened. An uppercut by Douglas. Down goes Tyson.
Hooks in right hand shot.
Excellent. Knocks out by Tyson.
Slumps to the canvas.
The champion struggles to stay on his feet.
How do you like it? How do you like it?
Hello, I'm Jim Lampley. Welcome to this look back at the stories behind the Holyfield Bowe trilogy, possibly the most memorable series of fights in 30 years of boxing on HBO. When Mike Tyson was convicted of rape and sent off to prison in early 1992, Evander Holyfield was left to search for other ways of proving that he was, as he said, the real deal. He chose to fight the best young American heavyweight, Olympic silver medalist Riddick Bowe. What followed was the greatest heavyweight trilogy since Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier.
As heavyweight champion, Evander Holyfield prepared to meet Riddick Bowe in 1992. He was regarded as an undersized overachiever. As a light heavyweight in the 1984 Olympics, he suffered a controversial disqualification. As a pro, he won the 190-pound title, which had little public appeal. Though lacking the natural size of a heavyweight, Holyfield set his mind to conquering that division as well.
My coach told me at 8 years old that I could be the heavyweight champion of the world. I hadn't reached the goal. If I would have just stayed the junior heavyweight champion of the world, been undefeated and retired.
He had the skills and smarts, but what made him special was his belief that he could break his opponent's will, no matter his size.
I chose to be insecure about what I thought the people would say. I wanted to prove to the guy, you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you back.
Holyfield always talked about how he would box, and then of course he would get hit, and he would start a brawl, and that was his nature.
The bigger his opponents, the bigger his will seemed to grow.
There was a moment in the Holyfield-Foreman fight
Another left hook and a right.
when Evander went after George and landed 18, 19 punches in a row. He just wasn't going to take no for an answer.
But his inability to KO former champions Foreman and Larry Holmes seemed to confirm the view he was an outstanding fighter, but not the type of dominant heavyweight fans preferred.
People thought of him as a blown-up light heavyweight, a blown-up cruiserweight. There was this thought that he was just holding on to a title that still really belonged to Mike Tyson.
Tyson had lost the crown, perhaps the biggest upset in boxing history, to 40-1 underdog Buster Douglas in Tokyo. 8 months later, Holyfield won the championship by knocking out Douglas in the third. Still, respect was elusive.
And they said, the only reason why you won that because this guy was overweight. And I knocked him out, but people said, well, Tyson hit him harder than that.
After a dynamic powerhouse like Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield wasn't appreciated for the great fighter he was.
It was hard for people to accept that someone can be the heavyweight champion of the world and not be as big a puncher as Tyson.
Only a fight with Tyson could convince the skeptics, and one was scheduled for November of 1991. However, delays, caused first by an injury to Tyson's rib and later by his rape conviction, deprived fight fans of the most eagerly anticipated heavyweight fight in years. With Tyson in prison, Holyfield scheduled a giant of a young fighter from Tyson's neighborhood in Brooklyn, the unbeaten Riddick Bowe. There were questions about Bowe's qualifications.
The knock on him was that he was lazy. There were rumors all the time. He had to be barred from going to the kitchen during training. It was difficult to get him to get up and do his road work.
I was with Riddick when he was an amateur, and we had a lot of fun, but he never showed the drive to be a champion.
Blue had brought him in as a sparring partner for Tyrell Biggs. Tyrell was beating the living shit out of him every day, primarily because he was just going through the motions.
But no one questioned Bowe's pure talent for fighting.
We knew that he had the size, we knew he had the speed, we knew he had the strength and the talent. What we didn't know is whether, when the going got tough, whether he was going to be able to step it up.
As he showed against trial horses Pierre Coetzer and Bigfoot Martin, Bowe was not the usual plodding giant. Taking on Holyfield for the title, however, would require a new level of commitment.
He was a guy that I boxed when I was an amateur, he was a professional. But I knew that from his attitude and his makeup, when you fight a guy like Evander Holyfield, I'm gonna tell you, Evander comes to get it. So I never underestimated him.
You never saw a more focused, more serious Riddick Bowe.
It was perhaps the best training camp that we've ever had. Bowe was ready to fight for the title.
A crowd of 18,000 awaits the fourth title defense for Evander Holyfield, a defense which now becomes the biggest test for respect in his 2-year reign as champion.
On November 13th, 1992, the challenger appeared ready, but few anticipated the ferocious encounter we'd see that night.
The question in the air was, how would Bowe deal with the kind of pressure and firestorm that Holyfield was capable of bringing to him?
And they brawl in the center of the ring.
Bowe has answered some questions early in this fight. He is showing a real willingness for combat.
Holyfield intended to box and flurry with Bowe, as he had against Douglas, but that plan was quickly abandoned.
He hit me so hard, but because of pride, I stayed there so long, both my eyes were swollen up so I couldn't see from the outside. So it's just a night of me standing there toe to toe.
Fighting at this furious pace, many felt Bowe would wilt.
Riddick Bowe used to be my sparring partner. Smart fighter, good hand speed, inside and outside. But he was known for running out of gas.
The left and a right by Holyfield and the left. These are solid shots, but the champion does not seem able to hurt Riddick Bowe.
Now, why didn't he run out of gas?
Round by round, the excitement was building, but it was the 10th round which took the fight into the stratosphere.
Bowe stuns him with an uppercut, and just like that, the champion struggles to stay on his feet. What a heart by Holyfield.
He's gonna stay on his feet.
He's hanging in there.
He hit me with an uppercut. Boom. Oh, it's a sharp. Oh, all of a sudden, I know that I'm hit. Now I go on defense, and he's swinging for life.
Gets away from a right hand, blocks another one. Bowe throwing and throwing, now goes to the body. Holyfield somehow standing up.
Riddick laid so much punishment on Evander in the first minute and a half of the round that it was pretty hard to fathom how Evander was standing up.
No Cortez watching. Champion gets the benefit of the doubt.
It was just a matter of him getting hit one more devastating blow before I would have stopped it. However, Holyfield has been known to get staggered and come back.
If you can feel the pain, then you're still in the game. It's when you don't feel the pain, you out.
This damn pit bull from Georgia would not go down.
Evander Holyfield's incredible powers of recovery once again on display.
And all of a sudden, the storm got quiet. Uh-oh now. Oh boy, I'm gonna hurt you.
All of a sudden, he had Riddick on the run, and for the last 30 seconds of the round, you're wondering how Riddick is going to finish.
Look at Holyfield. What a warrior. Reversing the tide of the battle. The champion now has Bowe wobbling. And he lands a right hand. Everybody in the Thomas and Mack Center on their feet. A right hand by Holyfield. And another. Round 10 continues after the bell.
Now, when the bell rung, I said, man, I just had 10 more seconds. Now, in the whole fight, now that's the only round that I was wishing that there could have been a little bit more time.
I said to myself, this cat here, you all right. I was impressed with him, Pat him on the stomach at the end of the round. I mean, that's a good round,
They both survived the storm, but it took more out of Holyfield than Bowe. Holyfield was floored in the 11th.
Oh, Holyfield in serious trouble now, and he's going to go down.
Again, Holyfield proved his resilience. The champion entered the 12th needing a knockout to retain the title. It was not to be.
From the back of the arena now, they begin to rise and applaud what has been an extraordinary battle between two men of heart and
It could have been one of those old fights that went 20, 30 rounds. The bell rang to end the 12th round, and it was like, you know, they were saying 12 rounds isn't enough. We need to go until somebody can't go anymore.
And new heavyweight champion of the world, Riddick.
And it was devastating to me. Did he win? Oh, yeah. He won. And he won it the right way. He took the fight.
Riddick Bowe emphatically answered any doubts about his resolve.
His heart had always been questioned, and I felt like, God damn it, question this. Look at this man. Look at this athlete. Look at this competitor.
And Holyfield's valor showed that a heavyweight champion could be measured by qualities other than power.
There is no doubt whatsoever that the 10th round completely won over all the skeptics for Holyfield.
Following the loss, Holyfield briefly considered retirement before winning a decision over journeyman Alex Stewart in June of 1993. Bowe's life, of course, changed overnight. The heavyweight championship is what you make of it, and Bowe's manager, the newcomer Rock Newman, intended to make a lot of it.
I remember thinking, Rock Newman has a heavyweight champion. We're going to see some entertaining things.
Newman had Bowe toss his WBC championship belt into a trash can, scrapping an understanding that he would fight Lennox Lewis.
If anyone has criticism of me because I fought, scratched, and clawed for my client's interest, bring that criticism on.
To further promote the personable new champion, Newman took Bowe on an Ali-like world tour. It expanded Bowe's horizons and his waistline.
I got a chance to meet the Pope. I was in Somalia, I was in Germany, I was all over the place.
By the time you get through traveling all over the world and shaking people's hand and smiling, you don't get a chance to train.
Rock Newman is a smart guy who thinks out of the box, and he was going to try to market Bowe as a world figure. He outthought himself.
To this day, a defiant Newman disagrees.
In spite of the fact that many say that the world tour had something to do with his problems, he came back, he went into training, he fought Jesse Ferguson in May. It is a fight that Eddie Futch says that he thought that Bowe looked better than he had ever looked, ever.
Whether or not the world tour adversely affected Bowe, a bigger distraction was a constant battle of the bulge.
Bowe was not a partier, was not a drinker, smoker, or drugger. What he did is he gorged himself.
If there was a piece of cake over there that was, you know, telling me to come get it, I went and got it.
It was clear when Bowe met Holyfield for the rematch that Bowe did more eating than training.
It's more than just the extra 11 pounds. He looks softer all over, right, George?
He is not proud of his body tonight.
Holyfield added 12 pounds, but it was all muscle, demonstrating that his hunger was only to recapture the title he had lost. With new trainer Emanuel Stewart, Holyfield agreed to stick to the strategy he abandoned in the first fight.
I says, we're going to beat him with rhythm, speed, techniques, moves that would make Riddick Bowe's larger size become a handicap instead of an advantage.
The change worked, as Holyfield dictated a more deliberate pace in the early rounds.
Holyfield has got the fight in his hand now. He's double jabbing. Everything he does, he moves first and then he retreats good afterwards.
By adopting a different strategic tack, Evander had thrown Riddick just enough off balance to make it a different fight.
He was standing out of harm's way. He kind of frustrated me with his movement.
Bowe throwing one punch at a time.
I was counter-punching, then I was able to lead. That second fight was, you know, it was a masterpiece.
A masterpiece that looked like it would go unfinished.
And somebody in a parachute has just landed on the edge of the ring, has been pulled away by security guards. The fight has been brought to a halt. There's a massive melee at ringside.
I see this guy come crashing into the rope. When he did that, you know, that look on my face and Riddick Bowe, like, turned around looking, he was kind of skeptical, looked back like I was joking.
I thought he seen King Kong.
Chaos.
Surreal. Just bizarre.
We were disoriented. No one knew
what this meant.
I thought, this has got to be a dream. Maybe I didn't wake up in time. Couldn't be real.
The fight stopped. People reaching over and pulling him down and starting to pound him.
He got his ass thoroughly smashed. I saw Caesar's Palace security. I saw our security. I saw the Fruit of Islam. Everyone converging on this guy.
I was thinking, does he have a weapon? Is he carrying a bomb?
And people began to scream, and some people pulled out their guns. I grabbed Mrs. Bowe and we hit the floor because we figured that the shooting would be in our direction.
My first thought was it was an attempt on either Farrakhan or Jesse Jackson's life. Pandemonium broke out.
This is a monumental disaster. Right now, police are filing by me at ringside and grabbing this gentleman who has created a monstrosity of an interruption in the bout.
With Fan Man finally removed, the question became, what next?
I don't know what we would have done if they would have refused to fight anymore. I knew that Bowe's wife was taken on a stretcher that night.
Now you have just gotten word that Riddick Bowe's wife has just fainted at ringside.
Gentlemen, she's in the early stages of her 4th pregnancy.
She's fainted with excitement and maybe even fear. We had to take her out.
I thought about it for a long time, standing there, if I should go with her, if I should stay here.
To the extent that we could have some coherent discussion, it really focused on him feeling a need to get out of the ring and go be with his pregnant wife versus whether or not he should stay there and fight and try to defend his title.
I never wanted people to say that Riddick Bowe was a quitter. He could have continued to fight, but he got out the ring or whatever the case may be, so I didn't want to open that door.
After a 21-minute delay, the fight resumed in round 7, already in progress.
1 minute, 50 seconds remain in the round.
Well, I suppose that if a wasp came into Picasso's studio and stung him on the nose, he'd go and get some ice and go right back to his easel, and that's what the fighters did.
Who had benefited from the delay? Bowe saw his wife in distress. Holyfield saw a weary opponent get a rest.
If it wasn't been for that man that flew in, it been a short night.
When the fight resumes, he come out there, he start throwing punches. I was overwhelmed. It takes me damn it to end the fight to get warmed back up, and by this time I'm behind on points.
I realized that what I have won is 6 rounds, but you know what? The fight is over after 12.
Left-right combination. Bowe misses with the uppercut.
Should have used my jab because he couldn't get away from the jab and he couldn't get around it, but if I had used my jab a little bit better, I don't want to fight hands down.
Riddick still had his moments.
Holyfield staying in, becoming a target. Bowe starting to heat up.
It was a really close fight. It was doggone near impossible to separate them and try to figure out who had actually won the fight.
So close, in fact, that the scoring of the disrupted 7th round played a major role in Holyfield regaining the title.
The 3 judges, one scored it for Bowe, one scored it even, one scored it for Holyfield. If the judge who scored it for Holyfield would have scored that round for Bowe, then Bowe would have kept his title, would have turned out to be a draw. And so this Fan Man may have caused a change in boxing history.
Holyfield had recaptured the title, but subsequently lost it to Michael Moore. During the course of that bout, major health concerns arose.
Rub my shoulder, my left shoulder. Rub his left shoulder, my left shoulder.
Evander complained of pain in his shoulder. He developed some shortness of breath, and there appeared to be an obvious problem with his heart.
I'll read a statement.
He was transferred back to Emory, and they concurred. They showed a model of his heart and talked about the problems.
What we see with his heart, though, is the elasticity is not quite normal, that it doesn't expand as easily as we would expect the heart to do.
Not satisfied with these conclusions, Holyfield visited a faith healer and pronounced himself fit to fight. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, however, needed medical evidence.
I'm a medical guy. I can only look at black and white and a database. So we sent Evander to the Mayo Clinic for the most intensive medical evaluation any athlete in history has been through.
The doctor there was able to let me know that, you weren't born with a heart condition. And what has happened is that they overhydrated you and they gave you too much morphine, which caused my heart to blow up. So in time that the heart went back down and it's all right. He said, you all right to fight.
Satisfied with the results of the Mayo Clinic evaluation, the Nevada State Athletic Commission granted Holyfield a license, which meant a rubber match with Bowe. No at stake, but it was still the biggest heavyweight fight that could be made.
It was perhaps the most brutal of the three fights.
Hard right hand by Bowe. Holyfield comes back with a left.
They both absorbed a tremendous amount of punishment.
A persistent theme in the trilogy, punching after the bell.
Holyfield was quickly exhausted, raising concerns that his heart was in distress again.
This is a very dangerous fight as far as I'm concerned for Evander Holyfield. This man is not able to catch a second win. This man is going to end up in a pine box.
I understand the frustration and the concern of George Foreman. And say, you know, this guy's going to die, but it wasn't my heart.
But what it was something that could have endangered his life by weakening him in the ring. Recent revelations explain Holyfield's fatigue.
I wrapped his hands every morning. He was sitting there and his eyes was yellow as I don't know what. I said, man, what's wrong with you? I didn't know it till after the fight, but Evander had contracted hepatitis.
I ate some seafood and got hepatitis A, and my doctor told me, you should fight. Your energy level gonna go up and down, up and down.
Despite being diagnosed with hepatitis A, Holyfield chose to fight. By round 5, he appeared to be finished.
Holyfield taking a couple of heavy shots.
Holyfield is really hurting. He just became 33, going on 53.
It looked like he was all through as a fighter, like he had spent so much to prove what he had proven.
I recall thinking the end is near for Holyfield. And then, early in the 6th round,
Down goes Bowe!
Evander threw a left hook to the body, threw a left hook to my shoulder. Ain't no big deal. Boom! Everything went blank.
As promised by his doctor, though, Holyfield's energy surge wouldn't last.
And now Holyfield seems to have run out of gas.
He was hurt, and I didn't do that because I didn't have the energy to finish.
He let Bowe off the hook. Had Holyfield been able to hurt Bowe a little bit more in that round, I would have had no choice but to stop the contest.
I was disappointed myself. I had the courage to get in that ring that way. But when it came to the final test, to just throw in a few punches and not worry about how I felt, I didn't do it.
Holyfield had one more energy surge in the 8th round.
He was capable of those 20 seconds of throwback to what you had seen before.
Hard right hand inside by Holyfield, and now down goes Evander.
And then just as suddenly gone again.
Third knockdown of Holyfield's career. Here comes the 4th, and that's it.
That's it.
There was this shell of Holyfield there in the ring where Evander's flaming spirit had once been.
With that, the trilogy came to a close with Bowe having won 2 of the 3 bouts. The boxing world was witnessing the beginning of an end, a surprise end.
I always figured Holyfield would be the guy who'd come out for the worse. Turns out that the guy who was really hurt in this trilogy was Bowe, physically and psychologically.
Indeed, Bowe's career had peaked against Evander Holyfield. He fought just twice more, taking bad beatings in disqualification wins against Andrew Galata.
Riddick Bowe allowed his worst instincts to take over, and his worst instincts were laziness, gluttony. If he was driven by anything, he was driven by hunger to eat, but certainly not by hunger to be great.
By contrast, Holyfield's legend kept rolling along.
we thought after the 3rd fight that this would be the end of Holyfield's run as a great fighter. But of course, it worked the other way. Holyfield regrouped to have more great fights, as he did most famously against Mike Tyson.
While the Tyson fights helped define Holyfield's high standing in history, the epic Bowe fights defined him in victory and defeat as the noblest of warriors.
You saw the best of Evander Holyfield, and you saw the best of Riddick Bowe. And these two guys were made for each other.
It would have been impossible for anyone to foresee that the seemingly spent shell of Holyfield we saw in that third fight against Bowe would knock out Mike Tyson just 12 months later. It might have been equally difficult to envision the demise of Bowe, whose two ensuing fights with Andrew Golota were as bizarre in their way as Fan Man's flight. As for the man on the paraglider, James Miller was found dead on a trail in Alaska at age 39 in March 2003. Thanks for watching The Tale of Holyfield Bowe.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.